Yo, what up guys, it's Flark, and welcome to my next 10.1 PvP starter guide, this one for Arms Warrior. I'll pretty much go in a discussion style video where I explain to you how to gear and how to build your character to the best of your ability, and then you will be equipped with the tools to go dominate all the way in solo shuffle up to, well, certainly legend. I played every class to 24 to 3300 last season, and solo shuffle's very inflated, but hey, you guys got jobs and a life unlike me, so you got to have the best stuff so you can just be as effective as possible right when you get into it. So that's what I'm gonna try and give you right now. We start with gear. Okay, so gearing in 10.1 PvP is extremely easy. In fact, so easy that I'm not gonna take very long with this time. What that means is crit damage and healing is nerfed to 150% rather than 175% it was before. And that's just too much. I know critical strikes feel really good, and it does feel like arms with a big mortal strike should have a lot of crit, because a crit mortal strike is really impactful. But just point for point, mathematically, crit is just not good. You can't nerf a stat by 50% and still have it compete with the other stats. You just can't. So that means you go verse, haste, mastery, every single piece. You don't do anything else. And that's very easy to do because verse comes on every single piece, as you know. In fact, you have more than enough verse just from getting PvP gear, which makes you actually want to remove some verse, right? Which you do with your tier set, which we'll get to in a bit. And then every piece, conquest and honor, you can just grab haste or mastery. Like, you never have to have crit. There's either going to be haste as an option or mastery as an option. That's just duh. There's no double crit options, right? So you could just eliminate all the crit. Watch, mastery, haste, 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 mastery, haste, 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 mastery. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, very easy, very easy. As for which one you want more of, because I understand that's a great question. For arms, I really think they are balanced stats, because I'm going to be showing you the skullsplitter build today, which really prioritizes bleeds. And of course, here you go, more damage from your abilities and bleed damage. That's what your mastery does. But haste also increases damage of your bleeds because it makes them tick more. So as a result, you kind of just want both stats. They're complementary, right? Haste makes you have faster globals and better resource gen, and mastery makes those globals more impactful, much like verse does, and you have tons of that. Don't worry about that. So they work side by side. Faster globals, faster resource gen, spending more abilities, pressing more buttons, and each of those buttons hit harder. So what did I do? I got a little bit of both. I have more haste than mastery. If you feel like you have way too much haste on your gear, you can easily switch out things like enchants, gems, or the cloak, maybe the necklace, right? You can see how my necklace and cloak both have mastery on it. You could have gotten haste cloaks, but I had too much haste. I had more haste on every piece, right? And you have this insignia that gives you haste. So take some of these choice ones, like cloak and necklace, and turn them to mastery if you have a similar problem to me. Otherwise, that's it. That's all of your gear, right? Which leads you directly into embellishments and your tier set. Well, tier set is so simple. Let me show you something. I showed this in the Fury Guide, but you might not have watched that. Let me show you something really cool. If you go to the adventure journal and then go to Shadowlands, it's stupid that they haven't updated this, but here, that's why it's a secret. Then go to loot. You can go to item sets, and you can actually see your pieces of gear and what stats they have on them. So for arms, shoulders are very good. Chest is very good. Look at that. Haste first, haste mastery. Haste main stat, first off stat. That's very good. You need to choose one bad statted piece. It's either going to be head with crit main stat or legs with crit main stat. But as a result of that, you get your 4 set, right? And your 4 set for arms is pretty solid. It's not fantastic, but it's just free damage, right? Free damage is always going to be good. And when you couple that with one idea that your versatility is already going to be overcapped. Watch, I can show you. Here, I'll just go hit a dummy. This is only an honor gear, by the way. You only get more stats in conquest gear, but look at this. What happened? I'm over, just barely, but I am over the 30% DR, which means every single time I get an epic upgrade, a conquest upgrade, my versatility is going to go further and further over the 30% DR, right? That's when versatility DRs and starts being less valuable. So as I go over and over and over, it would make sense to pull some of that verse away so I can stay at that 30% and not get DR'd stats. Because much like nerf stats, DR'd stats are not as good as regular non-DR'd stats. And how do you do that? I think you get the point. Head, right? Between legs and helmet. That sounded really funny, by the way. How do you get it? By getting head. Right. Sure. Between legs and helmet for your fourth piece, right, in the set to make sure that you get that bonus and get free damage, it is very clear that you choose the helmet because that has no verse on it. So the crit is not as damaging that you're gaining crit because a DR'd stat and a nerf stat are about the same problem, right? So you're getting a stat you don't like, but only one instance of it. So now you will have some Mortal Strike crits in there. Pretty cool, right? And execute crits. Those feel good, but you do not have much crit at all, and you get your 4-set bonus. Okay, so let's recap. Haste Mastery every piece. Use Cloak and Necklace to get more mastery. Tier set will be helmet, shoulders, chest, hands. Get a two-handed weapon. Put Sophic or Wafting Devotion on it. I use Wafting because I like the speed bonus that it gives, but Sophic is more damage overall, no question. And finally, the first embellishment you will be crafting is the Infurious War Boots of Impunity because it is extremely accessible in PvP. You either kick somebody, which you should be able to do very often, or you Stormbolt somebody and you get primary stat for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. High uptime, high reward, extremely valuable to get off during every burst window. And yes, you're going to be pressing Stormbolt during your burst windows. The whole point is to stun them when you're bursting. So, done. That's how you get your character. Easy. Watch it 100 times if I talk too fast. Sorry. But we're done. Okay. Arms Warrior. I'm giving you exactly one build because I really think it came to full force and you're just going to love it. So I don't think I need to give you other builds. I think you're going to love this one. That's how confident I am that you're going to love playing the Skullsplitter build. The Skullsplitter build is just all the bleed effects in the Arms talent tree and the base Warrior talent tree and then Skullsplitter, which makes all of your bleeds do more damage from the bleed packages, and then you expire them all at the same time by pressing Skullsplitter, and I will get to that more in depth in a second, but I'm just telling you the overall effect of the build, which gives you a huge amount of burst damage, but it's not reliant on a big crit or the stars to align. It's kind of like if somebody's low health, you can expire all the bleeds that do guaranteed damage. These are bleeds. They even ignore armor, by the way. That's what bleeds do. And it'll just like, when you press it, it just drains their health bar. It looks really cool. It's just, it's like, I don't know, it's like a laser gun. It's a Gatling gun, really. So this is how you build it. So here is the bleed package. It's right here in the middle center. And I'm going to link this build in the description, obviously. It's right here in the middle center, left middle, I guess you would call it, of this Arms Warrior talent tree. And it comes with Rend, which is a bleed, Bloodborne, which makes bleeds do more damage, Mastery, which gives you more bleed damage, Bloodletting, which makes your bleeds do more crit, which is effectively more damage, and last longer, which gives them huge Skullsplitter value, which means you absolutely need this. Then Skullsplitter, the ability in question, which causes your Deep Wounds and Rends to expire instantly, but only if you have this talent, which makes Skullsplitter do more damage and actually has that effect. Otherwise, Skullsplitter is just a button you press, right, that does damage. That's no good. But when it does more damage and causes your bleeds to expire out, that gives you a huge source of burst. In PvE, maybe this is not quite as good, although I'm not sure what they use in PvE. I don't care. But in PvP, you're trying to fit as much damage into a short window because that's harder to heal through, right? If you hit somebody for 1,000,000 times, that would eventually get to 1,000,000 damage, but it's probably easy to heal through. If you hit somebody for 1,000,000 one time, they probably died, right? So the more damage you can put into a short window, the better. And that is what this build is all about. So you get the bleed package, and it is all of this. And then you get the mastery, that's part of it. And then Battle Lord is just a fantastic talent. All the stuff at the top is generally just required, right? Die by the sword, major defensive cooldown. Ignore pain, major defensive option. Colossus smashes your offensive cooldown. Anger management gets it up faster. This one's interesting. Rather than going Warbreaker, because you could just sweeping strikes Colossus smash and get a similar AoE Colossus smash effect. You can also make your Colossus smash, you can grab blunt instruments instead, make your Colossus smash do more damage and last longer, which especially for single target is just so valuable. And then when you couple that with In for the Kill, which gives you a massive amount of haste if they are low health. So if your finishing power is tremendous as arms with skullsplitter and execute and low health 20%. What is that, a heroism almost? But just baseline, 10% is still good. So it has the finishing power. If you ever have them low, you pretty much win the game. But if you don't have them low, it just sets up every go with 10% more haste, which we already talked about why that's a great stat. This is just a weird talent. Versatility is fine, and die by the sword. Cooldown reduction is great because it's your major defensive. And then you just grab things like crit damage, sudden death for proc executes. Massacre is just what allows you to get that 35% window rather than like a 25% window, which I talked about right here. You have this 35% and that 35%. So you could get, if they're ever at 35%, you get the Colossus Smash into execute. It's over. It's just over. Too much haste, too much damage. And then just some talents that increase damage modifiers. They're very simple. You'll notice I didn't go Blade Storm in this. You absolutely could just by dropping one of these. But you have so much haste and so much dependent on bleeds. When you go into Blade Storm without any of the effective like unhinged or modifier talents, it doesn't really do anything for you. And I think they removed the ability to cancel it, which it was in a huge uproar. I remember Rio very angry about that. So if that's still the case, which I believe that it is, I don't run it now, then it is just bad. It's actively just bad. It protects against CC and you can Blade Storm a kidney, but my guides that I'm going to be making this entire patch, the 10.1 patch where I make 10 guides for 10 different specs, oh my god, this is going to be insane, are more for the working class, right, man? The somebody with a job, unlike me. Again, I know. I can't relate. I'm an idiot. I just play World of Warcraft all day. How am I going to relate? You guys work hard and do things with your life. I don't know what that's like. But okay, real talk though. We're not talking about 50-time rank 1 player. My guide is going to be for getting legend in the most effective, efficient way possible. That's true. That is literally what I'm giving you. So as a result of this, maybe you don't Blade Storm the kidney, and it keeps you in Blade Storm, which does just less damage than every other effect you can have during your burst window. I am certain of this. I am certain that if you press Blade Storm, there was actually globals that you could press that would do 3 times more damage with the Skullsplitter build. And I'll show you on the dummy what it looks like to even press Skullsplitter. It's pretty remarkable. So you have so much haste and so many globals to press. You want to get those out during your burst window. And that's why. There you go. I explained that way more than I needed to, but that's what Flark videos do. So I guess we'll both cry about it. Okay. Arms Warrior utility all comes from the baseline talents, and you know pretty well what those are by now if you've played any Arms Warrior at all. You have Intervene to intercept melee attacks from your teammates, which includes Kidney and Cheap Shot and Stormbolt and other cool things like that. Rallying Cry, massive defensive cooldown, as well as Inspiring Presence to make it bigger. Stormbolt, utility. Fear, utility. Spell Reflect, utility. We got mobility from Heroic Leap, talent, double charge, movement speed here. You've got utility in a slow from Piercing Howl. That's 70% AoE. That's very good. Massive heal from Impending, massive heal from Pain and Gain. Zerker Rage gets you out of Fear. Sap, not blind, Succubus. What's that thing called? Sleep, right? Incapacitate. Should get you out of all of those types of effects. What's another one that's Para, right? Para is that type of effect, right? Okay, cool. Should get you out of all that. Then you have Rage Generation, which is nice, but then you go down this line and you get massive offensive cooldown. Of course, you're running Avatar, and of course, you're getting Wreck during your burst, which is just, even though crit is bad, it's still very, very powerful. To have all of that Rage Generation critical strike chance just by pressing your major offensive cooldowns, which is Colossus Smash, as we saw, and Avatar, which is required. Okay, but now, instead of going down Spear like you always used to, you go to Thunderous Roar, you get this massive bleed damage, and then you buff all your bleed effects at all times with Thunderous Words. This is a passive talent that interacts with this entire bleed package over here. So of course that's good. And you just get this major offensive cooldown. Thunderous Roar does so much of your damage. Just press it in an AoE situation, you'll see exactly what I mean. But you get the synergy with the bleed package, and that's just done. That's all said and done. That's way too good, and that's your entire talent build. So you got your utility. You got your pretty standard Arms Warrior package. Feels really good there. And then you have your Burst Skullsplitter-centric build with your Haste and Mastery, buffing it as much as humanly possible, and that is Arms. So let me show you what it looks like. Let me show you what it looks like real quick. You charge in there, you press 2 overpowers because it builds stacks of of your, I don't remember what the passive is called. I'm sure Arms Warrior mains do. But it's very important that you know what I'm talking about. It is Overpower makes Mortal Strike. Oh yeah, it's actually just baked into Overpower now. Increases damage of your Mortal Strike by 30%, stacking up to 2 times. That's nerfed in PvP, doesn't matter. Still valuable because Overpower hits pretty hard and juts out a seismic wave, right? So you press that twice and Mortal Strike. This is the seismic wave by the Dreadnought. So you press that twice and then you Colossus Smash, Avatar, Mortal Strike with the Sharpen. I have that macroed into my burst. Oh, I should show you that, shouldn't I? Everybody always asks, what's my Swifty macro today? Avatar, Orc Racial, Sharpen Blade. Isn't that funny? I got to make sure it goes off. And then my badge, which I'm not running, but you can put it in there. And anytime you equip a badge, then it's good. Right, so let's go through this a little better. Sorry. Distracted by all the things that I have to remember to tell you. Charge in, double Overpower, Colossus Smash, one-shot macro. Maybe you get an Execute proc in there. Then a Mortal Strike with a Sharpened Blade to both do an enormous amount of damage. Then you can Rend, Thunderous Roar, and Skull Split. And this is what it's going to look like. You could also set up Rend ahead of time. I like doing it the way that I was doing it because you get the Sharpened Blade on them, then you apply that Rend and you immediately spend it with Skull Splitter, getting the maximum amount of damage. But watch this. Charge. Double Overpower. You could maybe throw in Rend right here if you wanted to. Big one-shot, big Mortal Strike, big Execute proc, big Thunderous Roar, and then Skull Splitter. Now, you didn't get to see their health go down, but what you do get to see is, oh, dear God, that's even more disgusting than I thought it would be. Yeah, there's that Rend that I was talking about. One cast for 223k, and it came all at the exact same time. I did not honestly expect it to be just that beautiful when that's exactly the way we drew it up. Didn't get to see how cool it is to see the Gatling gun because somebody already hit the dummy and got it to low health, but whatever. I'm not going to tell them not to. There you go. That is bleed damage, which means it ignores armor. And it'll be a little lower in PvP with versatility because nothing ignores versatility damage reduction, but not that much lower. That is an enormous amount of unpeelable damage to go off in a split second. And it also does your entire set of deep wounds too. This is not a drill. It expires both. So you have the big Mortal Strike that applies a huge Sharpen effect, which means they can't heal through this burst. And then you expire all of those bleeds at the same time, getting them to very low health, which you can then finish with an Execute, and they still have probably Sharpen on them, so it's very difficult to heal through. And that's why arms are so difficult to deal with right now. Cool. That's it. As I said, I was only going to give you one build. I really think if you play this build, you will have fun. You feel free to type in the comments below any builds that you've played that maybe even have gone better for you, but I swear you give this one a try and that does a lot of damage. So have a great time, have a great research season, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.